Let's get salty!
Everyone, and welcome to This Week in Hearthstone, the 26th edition, our weekly news recap series, taking a look at the news and events in the Hearthstone world in the past week. And, well, there was a bit of, stuff going on. We covered a lot of it already with the whole, classic announcement and all that, but there's some other news to go over, so let's get right into it. And our first top story is Exar, head card designer. He's still doing his weekly AMAs, and one of the more interesting tidbits I thought I would pass along that I saw was that there are no plans for Wild Nerf still. He was asked if there was plans to nerf Secret Mage or Pain Warlock or whatever, and it looked like he said they talked about the last 3 patches or so, and there are still no plans on nerfing stuff. And if you've been playing Wild at all at any higher ranks or whatever, it's basically been the same decks for the past half year, and nothing seems to be changing with that, and it's a common trend. And the one thing I will note that I hope at least can maybe get them to change their mind is the new classic mode. If you're not somehow aware, classic mode will be coming into Hearthstone, where it'll be pre-nerf cards from classic, and only classic and basic cards will be available in the launch of rotation, likely in the next month or so. And it's a place where you can play your decks of old, and that was kind of the argument they've been making, is that Wild is a place where they want it to be, where you can go back and play your decks of old. Well, if we have Classic, maybe Wild doesn't need to be that, because honestly, it really isn't that. If you go back and play an old deck, it doesn't really happen. And if you look at all the top decks right now, what's a deck of old? Pain Warlock? Not at all. Secret Mage runs mostly new cards these days. Reno Priest has a couple of cards, but that's still even those cards are mostly 2 or 3 years after Hearthstone came out. And how many decks can we talk about that are completely unplayable because, well, you can't beat most of these decks? And I'm hoping that they change their mind on this in the next little bit. And I think we need to be continuously vocal about it, because from what I can tell, the vast majority of the Wild community would like to see more regular balance updates to Wild, where a deck like Secret Mage or Reno Priest or Dark Glare Warlock isn't allowed to dominate the meta for over a year. I think it's fine that a deck can be a powerful, really strong deck for, a few months, half a year, whatever, but it gets to a point where it's can we change things up a little bit? It's a little frustrating to lose to Secret Mage for the 80 billionth time, right? So let's hope that they change their mind on that. I'm hoping that Classic can open the door for that. That's my big hope. But yeah, as of right now, still no nerfs coming for Wild, and I wouldn't expect to see any, especially with the reverted cards going to happen. They'll want to see what gets shifted up. And again, maybe they do something crazy and unnerf War Song Commander and all hell breaks loose, because that card's Risky Skipper in Frothing would just be ridiculous. So you never know. They might go completely crazy and do another Raza and unnerf a card that probably shouldn't be unnerfed, and then who knows what's going to happen. Next main story, and we don't talk about Battlegrounds that often, but I cover it when there's news, is that there's a big update coming for Battlegrounds. And if you aren't aware, there's this huge issue in Battlegrounds with Firewall. You can basically make your turn longer artificially by reconnecting and all the shenanigans, and you can do it with Kagdar and tokens, and you get extra time. And if you go Kagdar, Bran, and bunch of tokens, you can get up infinite triples in a turn effectively. So what they're planning on doing is they're going to update the game so you can only get 1 triple per time with Kagdar and Bran. They're literally going to change the way the cards work so that people won't be able to exploit this, rather than just fixing the exploit. My thought is, the way the game's coded, it's probably pretty hard to try and get things to reconnect and connect and not, change that across the board for this one interaction, when the game's been built this very specific way. And I get that they want to find any way to work around it without reworking code for connecting, because if this doesn't work, they basically have said, well, we might just take Kagdar out of the game, or might take tokens out of the game, or who knows. But you can expect that update to go live in the next 1.5 weeks. And also Junkbot will be moved down to tier 4. That card's been basically dead ever since it went from tier 4 to tier 5. So maybe mechs can make a comeback, but times have changed in Battlegrounds, the elementals, the pirates. I don't think any of those really existed with Junkbot at 4, but I could be wrong. You can let me know in the comments. But yeah, if you're looking forward to that, you're sick of getting scammed by Kagdar transitions, you might not have to worry about that all that soon. Next, we have the standard and wild meta update. Standard, you still have Scam Paladin doing really well, the Cheese Paladin, Ramp Paladin, whatever you want to call it. Libram Paladin has been crushing it. Meaty talked about how it's tier S, the best deck. I've been playing it. Doesn't feel great, but I don't know, maybe I'm not good enough or whatever. But yeah, I wanted to highlight one deck here that's made a bit of a comeback lately. There's been a couple variants of it, and that's like Guardian Animals Druid, and I'm highlighting like a Dragon Corrupt version, I believe. It's got like Yashiraj in it, and it looks pretty cool. You can play some Guardian Animals, you can ramp up and cheat out some stuff. Just try not to die to Weapon Rogue, which is very prevalent in Standard Ladder. The meta's very uninteractive at the moment. We're gonna have a video on that tomorrow about the main issue with Standard, so tune in for that. But yeah, if you want to give some Guardian Animals Druid a try, you might want to do that. And in Wild, well, we talked about at the beginning, you know, not much has changed. You have the same decks as always and always and always, but Token Druid, I saw a build of Token Druid get like top 50-ish legend, and it runs a couple of wild cards. You got like Oaken Summons, Vargoth, Zuldrak, I think Whispering Woods, Mark of the Lotus. You got some good stuff. I have played some like variants of Token Druid lately for like the Arbor Up achievement. It's done pretty well, so you might want to give this a go. If you want to try something different in Wild and a little bit more aggressive, play some Token Druid, abuse Arbor Up. It doesn't seem to be that bad in Wild right now. And lastly, we'll end off with the Mailbag segment where I answer your questions. Make sure if you want to ask a question to be answered on the segment, leave Mailbag in the comment below. First question comes from Effie Ephes. How old are you? And that is extremely rude. You don't ask a young gentleman such as myself my age. Now, I'm 35, born on April 30th, 1985, the year the Nintendo Entertainment System came into the world, just like me, Destiny. But yeah, 35 years young, we'll go with that. Mr. Handsome Boy now asks, what's the best PBS show of all time? I vote Sesame Street. Bananas in Pajamas was pretty good too. I'm a Reading Rainbow guy. Reading Rainbow was the nuts, the beautiful, amazing theme song. I got canceled like 10 or so years ago, but then they did like I think a Kickstarter to get it back, and I haven't checked out like the rebooted. I think it's more for like schools and stuff, but Reading Rainbow was just, I don't know, it's always really pleasant to come home and just watch that. I can't remember the host's name. He's amazing, but yeah, Reading Rainbow, I'll give that a big thumbs up. I like me some Reading Rainbow. Big Dog asks, what are some of your favorite games other than Hearthstone? Have you ever done a top 10 list for it? If not, would be a cool random video sometime. So probably not going to make a video on it, at least not on this channel. If I ever do like a side channel, I might do that. But I've already talked about my favorite game of all time, Final Fantasy VI. But I thought I'd list like maybe 5 honorable mentions like we can do in videos. So I'm a big RPG guy, especially SNES. So Chrono Trigger definitely comes to mind. Final Fantasy X from the PS2. I love more recent games that I've been absolutely in love with is like Celeste, Witcher 3 were phenomenal. And if I gotta go with like one more, Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time absolutely blew my mind. It was my first Zelda game I ever played completely. I didn't have Link to the Past on the SNES, and only my friend had like Zelda on the NES. So I played Ocarina of Time, blew my mind. Absolutely love it. I played it I don't know how many times. So yeah, I'd say a lot of those games, but maybe, I don't know. Do you guys want to see a top 10 list of video games from me on this channel? Well, maybe one day, maybe one day. Al Bitten asks, despite being a Russian who's played Counter-Strike a lot, I still think that Hearthstone is much more toxic than any other game. So I guess my question is, do you know why it feels so toxic? So I guess toxic in terms of like people BMing or maybe the community. I don't know. Like this, the Hearthstone subreddit can be a pretty toxic place if you ever go there. It can be fun at times, but yikes. Overall, I think Hearthstone is a little bit more toxic. It's a single player game. There's no accountability for how you act. Like you're behind a computer or your phone. There's no chat. There's no there's no way to really interact with you other than like, you know, being toxic and BMing or emoting, or, you know, maybe you friend request somebody after and harass them. But I feel like because of the single player component, you don't have teammates to keep you in line at all. You don't get that humility at all. There's, yeah, like just hiding behind stuff. I guess it's a bit more toxic, but I've had so many amazing experiences in the Hearthstone community. Of course, there's been some awful ones. dirty snipers and people trying to grief me, and you know, that's streamer privilege crap. Nobody cares about that anyways. But regardless, I still think the community overall is really sweet. There's a lot of awesome people, and yeah, there's bad apples and it can be toxic at times, but overall, just try and ignore those garbage people. Don't worry about them and focus on the good. There's a lot of amazing people, content creators, streamers, viewers, people that make this game. There's some awesome people, and I do think the community overall is a benefit to the gaming community and not really a toxic negative. And lastly, cat. Nova. And lastly, Sasker says cat. Yes, cat. Not really a question, but I love my Nova. I'll show off my cat. Right? The funny thing is, literally right as I was recording this, she runs up to me and then runs away, and I grab her, and now she's all shy and doesn't want to say anything when she's the yappiest girl in the world. But hey, that's cats. They just have their own agenda, but I thought I'd show off a little bit of Nova. So there you have it. That's This Week in Hearthstone. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Have a great day and stay salty, my friends. Right, Nova? Right, Nova? Right? I don't understand her.